Here I go again on my own. Da-da-da. All right, friends. Here we are. We're on the road, road warriors. We've been up in parts of Montana that you need not know. But we've been out elk scouting. Travis came with me.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. Can't even talk right now.
Jared is back at home being a father of 4 children. He couldn't make it. But Jared and I are going to be up in these whereabouts chasing elk here in September. So we came up. Travis is helping do a little filming.
Yeah.
We'll see. We don't know if the scouting will tie into the final film, but I think we got some pretty good shots for how much time we spent in the truck.
Oh, yeah. We did. We saw quite a few animals, for all species. We saw our target species, which was elk, every day. Bulls every day.
Bring your mic up just a tiny little bit.
Which was good.
Yep, saw bulls every day. I think we saw over 40 bulls. We did see a lot of antelope.
Oh, there's an antelope.
No, it's a deer.
Oh, my eyes don't work.
I'm not stopping unless I see a lot of headgear, which I don't. I think it's a doe.
And if you're just listening right now, we're in the car. We're driving back. We literally just got done talking to our buddy, Terry. We were knocking on doors. Terry didn't let us hunt, but he did take down our info, which was sweet. He was a nice fella.
Yep, there's an antelope. Yeah, we've been on a little bit of a prairie safari. Yeah, I think the goal for us with scouting was just to honestly cover the unit, which is massive. I think I've drove at least 200 miles just in our area.
I was about to say, dude, you're almost on empty.
We're going to have to get gas as soon as we get back to town. Burned a whole tank of gas, which isn't crazy. That's kind of the norm, I think, for what you can do when you're scouting and public land is separated by great distances, or the public land in some cases is just massive. And you can just drive around and exploring roads, looking at habitat. Obviously, we're trying to put eyes on bulls because that's always like keeps you in the game a little bit. And it's nice to see a target species. But realistically, it's just getting a lay for the land, kind of starting to get acquainted with the areas, kind of refresh the memory banks. And I like to kind of get out and scout, just kind of get that predator mindset brewing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you got antelope season about 3 weeks out. That's kicking things off, but September is very close. It'll be here in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. The weather was nice. It wasn't super hot. It rained a little bit, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. I bought a new lens. I bought a 400 to 800 millimeter lens. So we got to test that out.
Yep.
Big lenses on mirrorless cameras. They're a little, they're a lot to stabilize, we'll put it that way, and to manage and to handle. And Travis is going to be packing that thing and trying to get some sick footage and photos for that matter.
And that thing weighs like 5 pounds.
Yeah, it weighs 5 pounds.
5 pounds.
A little over 5 pounds.
That's just like an additional 5 pounds.
So just the process of packing that thing when you're out hunting, trying to chase elk is, you got to be committed to the game. And that's what we try to do when we make films, is try to always kind of step things up a little bit, even if it's just a tiny little bar, always be getting better. Always try to, we like to, I think, film things at like a high production value while still, not really altering the hunt or staging anything. So I think this will help us. I think we're going to get some sick stuff. We got some really cool footage just already in the last 2 days. So I'm glad we bought it. It is not cheap. If you look it up, I think it's like $3,200.
Yeah.
I bought a couple years of insurance on it. So if I drop it or if Travis drops it and breaks it,
which I've done,
we can get it fixed. And then after 2 years, if it hasn't made you its money, it's, well, you haven't been using it enough. So, yeah.
Then it'll become a paperweight. And we've nicknamed it the bazooka.
The
This
bazooka.
literally looks like a rocket launcher every time you're carrying it.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to go into any more detail on anything? Like what we did? I mean, we shot guns.
Travis
You shot
his gun.
You shot your bow.
I shot my bow. I just built a new Lift X. So when you hear this, we should have a little bow build video. Jared just came by, grabbed a camera, built the bow. That was not high production value, but Jared did a good job. I think it'll be interesting. You guys can see how I go about building my bow, which is probably a little more interesting to talk about than the scouting, because the scouting is pretty straightforward. Go look at land, boots on the ground if you need to.
Check access.
Check stuff, check roads. Can you get to this public ground? Great. That way, when we make a game plan in September, we already, some of that legwork, we're not burning hunting days driving around trying to figure out what things look like and where stuff's at. We did find one group of bulls that had 3 bulls in it that were over 300. Looked like a 310-ish kind of bull, maybe a 320, 330 bull, and then a 330, 340 kind of caliber bull. But one thing to keep in mind when you're scouting is I don't think those bulls will be in that same spot in September.
Yeah.
Didn't see any cows, and they're in a spot that I don't think there's a lot of elk, which is maybe why they're a little bit bigger.
Did you not see any cows on that one piece that was up in the timber with all the elk? The one that had the most elk on it.
No, that one had cows.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You
were
just talking
about
the
the other group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was always good to see some shooter bulls, which there's a lot of bulls that are shooter bulls. I like to think that my season is going to consist of me targeting the biggest, oldest, maturest bulls. But when you got a bow in your hand, sometimes you get something in front of you that's maybe not what you would dream up as like, oh my goodness, I think we always want to try to find like just some giant, but shooting elk with a bow is super fun. So
yeah. Oh, we got a deer right.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Don't do it. I know you do. I know you're smart. There you go.
Muley.
But yeah, so I built a bow, new bow, Lift X Matthews, which we got a Hoyt in the background. Travis, he's a trader. No, the Hoyt bows are really nice. But if you're not making fun of your buddies who have a different model of bows, then are you even friends with them? Just nail out a buck.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, well, you can make fun of me all you want.
But yeah, when I build a bow, you know, the reason I started building my own bows is because bow shops are great. They serve an awesome purpose, just like a gunsmith does, but you don't have to rely on them. And everybody wants to get their bows worked on in July, really in August, and really in September. And if you need something done, it could be a week, 2 weeks, who knows? I've definitely dropped bows off or asked for things and was told that it would be done by X period of time. And then it's way past that and you're still waiting for it and you're stressed out. And so I just bought a bow press and figured it can't be that complicated. If I hit something crazy, I'll take it into the bow shop, but I try to keep it pretty simple. YouTube is an insane place as far as there's a million bow build videos by some really talented archers. So you can learn a lot just going on YouTube. And
Go Hunt has some good, Trail had some pretty good ones
nice
on Go Hunt's YouTube.
So Trail, I've watched some bow builds by Chris B, Levi Morgan, Dudley.
Yep.
there's a bunch of people out there that do a really good job of showing you that stuff and you can learn from, but it's not a really tough process. At least for my specs, and the Matthews bows are so easy, at least in my experience. Basically, I put a rest on there and find my center of my string. I'll put my D loop and where my arrow knocks about 1 knock above the center of my string, and kind of have everything center, put a sight on it. I did buy a draw board this year so I can draw my bow back and make sure my cams.
You got that attachment on your.
Yep.
What are those? What's your press called? Which one is it? Green, easy green or
no? It's not the easy green. It's like a brownish colored one from Last Chance Archery. It's just the easy press, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can draw my bow back, make sure it's roughly tuned, and then I'll shoot it through paper just as a reference point to see how my arrow is flying, which this year the first shot through it was a bullet hole. In the past, it's been a bullet hole. I don't know if I'm just on that luck that sometimes people get when they first start doing things. It might have been so easy. So yeah, I think I built my bow in 2 or 3 hours, and had to look up some videos on how to tie my D loop. I don't tie a D loop. I think the last time I built a bow was 2 or 3 years ago. So you kind of want to just make sure you're doing it right. And everything's pretty straightforward. Just take your time. And yeah, got to shoot it a little bit. I'm excited. I put a new sight on my bow this year that I'm interested to test out. I started with a kind of a black gold. I wouldn't say started. We went through a bunch of sights back when we were shooting bows for bear archery way back in the day, but kind of in recent memory, the black gold, the 5-pin slider. It's a pretty, I don't want to say standard, but a lot of people shoot a sight like that. Travis has one on his bow back there.
Yeah.
It's got a 5-pin housing, and your bottom pin is your mover, and you can dial it for different yardages. I ended up shooting a single pin, which gives you a great sight picture and allows you to feel like you can aim really accurately. But if you don't practice a ton with it, it can be tough to make a on-the-fly call when you're elk hunting if something jumps up or moves distances. So I started shooting a 2-pin single post, which gave me more flexibility. But Dan Evans is an absolute elk slayer, and his Canyon Pounder sight and some of his other stuff is pretty innovative. What the heck? This guy just passed me, and then now he's got his hazards on.
That was super weird.
That's weird. I wonder if he has some car troubles there when he punched the gas to get around me. Dang. Anyways, the Canyon Pounder is sweet because it's a 5-pin sight. The middle pin is your mover, so you can flip the housing out and have a single pin sight that you can dial to whatever yardage you want, within the range of the sight. And you got a single pin sight. If you're running and gunning, you can, pop the sight in. You got 5 pins. Just make sure that your, sight is set for the right yardage to use the 5 pins. So I'm pumped to run that this year. See how I like it. I think I'm going to like it, but you always got to test stuff like that in the field and on hunts. So
yeah, I like the option sight. It's definitely sweet to be able to go between multiple pins and go to a single pin if you need to.
Yeah.
And definitely the bow press is probably one of the best investments, I think, if you want to kind of take your archery to the next level and learn the fundamentals of building a bow and how your bow works, how to fix it, how to tune it. You just learn a lot more about bow building and shooting a bow. People should still use archery shops, but when you think about how much they charge you these days, it's like, oh crap, my bow all of a sudden is out of tune. I have to go in there, say I didn't buy it there because I'm from a different city or whatever. It's expensive, dude. It's like a couple visits and you've already paid for your bow press.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why not just be able to go into your garage, throw it on the press, redo your D loop if you broke your D loop, or, take a twist out of your string, or, move your peep.
Put new strings on when they wear out,
New
whatever
strings
it is.
on. Yeah. And having that draw board, I want to get that next because it's definitely pretty key if you don't have someone there with you when you're drawing it to check your cam timing or cam lean. So, yeah, that's if you're on the fence, just buy one.
I do need to I probably will build new arrows. I've been shooting the Eastern Pro Comps and they shoot really, really good, but yeah, the durability of them, not sure if they're as durable when it comes to hammering into an elk as some other options out there. So I might try to build some new arrows. I got some day 6 arrows. Travis has done some work and knows Brian over there, who's the founder.
I love those
one of the owners. They're going to be a little heavier than what I'm shooting now. I don't know what the finished weight will be, but I'll build those and see how they shoot. Go from there. Some of you guys probably have seen that Remy's involved with day 6 now, so I'm sure they'll get some more eyeballs from Remy.
Yeah.
Why do you like your day 6 arrows, Travis?
Well, they're durable. They always tune extremely well for me. And I've had really good luck with all the animals I've shot with them. I've had pass-throughs on every single elk that I've shot with them, including their arrow with expandables.
Nice.
I shot one with a slick trick fixed blade. That was that bigger bolt. And then that bull I shot over the wall was a Ulmer Edge, a vintage Ulmer Edge. I mean, not vintage because it was brand new, but
the original before they became Severs.
The OGs. Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend that most people, I don't know. It's hard. I carry fixed blades and expandables in my quiver. I think everyone should take the time to make sure everything that's in their quiver is tuned and shooting with their field points, but there's an argument for both. Obviously, mechanicals are more accurate inherently. They're more forgiving, but they definitely don't have the ability, I think, to get away with certain misplaced shots maybe as well as a fixed blade does, at least on an elk, which is a big animal. I mean, I've shot expandables, killed bears and elk and other stuff with them. I've shot we're losing the camera. Cameraman's day rate's going down.
No. The mount is flawed.
So yeah, I mean, whatever you're confident with is what you should shoot. There's no right or wrong. There's people that are in both camps. You should only shoot mechanicals, or you should never shoot an elk with anything other than a fixed blade. I've done both. I don't know what I'll shoot as like my primary like arrow I want to pull out of my quiver this year. I like to kind of situationally make that decision on the fly, but
my personal stance on fixed versus mechanical, both will get the job done, but I would much rather choose like a well flying, well tuned fixed blade on an elk over a mechanical, just based on penetration and usually having a pass through or a better likelihood of making it deep into their cavity with a good shot.
Yeah.
And those, I mean, you haven't shot them yet, but I'm sure you'll test them. But those day 6 Evos fly extremely well for a fixed point. I haven't shot anything with them yet, but they fly really well for a fixed blade.
Like, if it was going to be really windy, I'd probably grab a mechanical, just because there's less surface area up front to plane in certain directions before the arrow stabilizes. If your arrow is not spinning perfectly true, though, when you shoot an animal, a fixed blade is definitely going to penetrate deeper than a expandable that is going to eat up energy to have to kick blades out.
Well, have you one of the like best examples of if you've ever seen like on people's YouTube videos on a kill shot their bow's out of tune. They're shooting a mechanical, and when the arrow actually is hitting the animal, it's been like kicked out.
Yeah, the back of the arrow is not in
And you
line with
get
the front.
no penetration.
Yeah.
So if your bow's out of tune, it's going to suck regardless, but it's even more so with a expandable. Like, you're not going to get any penetration.
Yep. Expandables do typically make a bigger hole. They can leave a better blood trail. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, kind of got to vet that for yourself and make that decision.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
You got anything else on the bow thing, or I was going to go back to scouting real quick?
Nope.
I was going to just give a couple things that I learned on this trip that from scouting that might be helpful for people if they get time to go scouting. One was, we're driving around checking access. While we're driving around looking to see, where roads end and where stuff's gated and what you can see from certain vantage points. It had rain. We had that thunderstorm that rolled through.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that was super crucial is, we're driving through kind of some ag country and they're dirt roads. So the moisture had just made everything kind of brand new. Well, we were looking for elk tracks and we found that one spot where we saw elk tracks cross the road. Doesn't really look like anything, but then we kind of had that in our mind, like, oh, elk just crossed here like in the last 12 hours. And we were able to go down a little further and glass up a bunch of bulls, kind of bedded up in this light patch of timber where most people probably would have just driven right past there, been like, there's no elk out there. So that's a key thing. Like, look for sign, especially on dirt roads or gravel roads.
Yep.
Even more so when it's like elk that, might be traveling in prairie country. The other one was, we hiked into a spot to go see if, how much elk sign was back there. You kind of, made a remark about this, but even though you see elk in there, which we saw elk in there, and we hiked in there, there really was no rut sign or rubs or anything in that area.
Yeah, not. There really wasn't hardly any true, significant elk sign.
So just if you find them there in the summer, definitely does not mean they're going to be there the rest of the year.
And, depending on where you're at, elk will rub more or less. There's spots there's not a lot of stuff for them to rub, so you won't really get a look for rubs. But yeah, and rubs can be deceiving too, because bulls will obviously rub their antlers early in the season when they shed their velvet and they're kind of getting ready for the rut, and then they could potentially move pretty significantly to another area where they actually rut. So, elk rubs are a good indicator of elk in the area in the general time frame of the rut, but it doesn't mean that you're going to find elk rutting there necessarily. So something to keep in mind.
Yep. And then the last thing I was going to mention was definitely do your e-scouting up front, so you have areas picked out and you're not wasting time. But then try to find vantage points. I mean, having a spotter helps big time. A good spotter.
Yep.
But being able to find vantage points, even from roads, where you can glass way back in there, even if it's across basins or across huge drainages, to look back into that country and get just an idea of what does that country look like? Does it look like good habitat? Because a lot of times, these public land spots, you can't really even see in there. And those are usually the best spots people can't see in off the road. But sometimes you can see into them from about 3 miles away and look in there and be like, wow, that's actually looks like great habitat, or even see animals moving if you're at those last, few hours of daylight. So those are 3 things that stuck out for me on this trip.
Yeah, I think it's easy to drive through areas and just look out the vehicle and not want to stop and pull the optics out, but it's pretty important, I think, to try to stay vigilant on the glass and stop, pull the spotter out, either get out of your truck, or if you have a window mount, put it on the window, position the truck the right way, drive down the road, get a different angle, and then you can see elk from a long ways away. You know, like you can glass a lot further than I think sometimes we think we can, or people know that they can. So yeah, you can definitely do a lot from the road in certain areas. I mean, if you're in the mountains, it's gonna be trickier. You might have to just bomb in. You know, I'm gonna go scout for mountain mule deer. I think here in a few weeks, hopefully, I'm gonna be hiking way in. I'm not gonna be doing that from the truck. So it's dependent on the areas, but for what we were doing,
Yeah,
we put a lot of road miles in.
it's basically we wanted to kind of cover the whole unit, and it's country you can glass into from the roads.
Yeah.
Most places.
And I would say that, you know, you don't have to scout, but my goodness, it really helps put you ahead of the curve. And I think if you looked at the success rates of the guys who do spend time scouting, they're definitely above the average. You know, it's a huge benefit. I know it's harder to justify the time when you can't potentially put your tag on an animal, but I like that it kind of gives you this freedom of no pressure. I can do whatever I want. I can take a risk and go into an area and not feel like I'm wasting precious hunting time to try to explore something. And I like scouting. I know it's in the summer. There's a lot of things to do in the summer. And if you have family, it can be tough to take time out of your family's summer activities. But if I had 10 days to hunt, I'd probably scout 3 and hunt 7. And I think I'd probably be ahead of the game because a lot of hunts, it seems like the first few days are really scouting, which every hunt, there's going to be a little bit of startup inertia on the front end because you kind of got to get in there and get a lay of the land, figure out what's going on. But it definitely speeds it up to where you're hopefully just actually hunting.
Yeah. Unless you hunt the same spot every year.
So, yeah, I'm going to be home for a day and then I'm going to go fish for 3 days. I got a guy coming to film. It's going to be hot. It's the end of July, so I wouldn't say that it's like my favorite time as far as knowing the fishing is going to be really good. But it's summer. It's Montana. We're going trout fishing. It's going to be awesome. We'll catch fish. Hopefully, we'll beat on them a little bit and have a cool fishing film for all of you that have watched the fishing films over the years and really enjoyed those. We're trying to stay on top of that a little bit. Unfortunately, the fly fishing industry is just, it's weird and it's small and there's not a lot of funding for projects like there is, I think, in the hunting space, which is a much larger market. So it's pretty tough to justify a lot of time and expense into making films. Like I haven't even tried to reach out to any brands. We're just doing it for the love of it. So, oh no, if you're on YouTube,
We feel sorry for
we're
you.
sorry because the camera, you know, it's on a heavy fill shooting bag. You think it would just sit there, but
Well,
yeah.
your truck is just so rough and we're on concrete.
Well, it's got a little mud on her, you know, that tires might be a little
She's
out of
wobbling.
tune.
Yeah. So when's the next video coming out for you? What's
Well,
next?
there'll be a bow build video popping off. That's yeah, you can just watch it and see how I put a bow together. Maybe you learn some stuff. And then next week, we've got the NRL Hunter match that I filmed where Jared and Serge shot and belt back in May. So that will be cool for people to watch, just kind of see what those look like. Maybe get you a little inspired to go get your rifle ready for season. That's something that a lot of people slack on hard, and they'll go to the range right before rifle season. They'll shoot 100 yards, say, oh, my gun's zero. They might shoot a gong at 300 yards, which is usually like a giant gong that you could hit with a freaking handgun and they'll think that they're ready to rock and roll. But I like to shoot in the field, just like we did with our bows. Like put yourself in kind of a hunting scenario, have your hunting gear, and just build that confidence up, get to know your system. It helps. Doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean your shots are going to be perfect. You hope that they are. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but it's better to say I put in some preparation and some effort and it didn't work out versus like I was just lazy and that's why I made a horrible shot on an animal. Because hunting, it's a privilege, and I think that we should, do our best to make good shots on animals. First priority in the world of firearms and shooting stuff, I'd say, is guys who are fighting for our country, and that's probably the utmost importance in being precise. But then I think hunting is, a real close second of trying to do our due diligence and do our best to shoot an animal, put it down quick, and just be a good reflection of what, hopefully a responsible hunter should be.
Yeah. Thought that was a trout jumping back there, but it was some kids throwing rocks.
Do you need, do we want to stop here or should we just keep rallying?
I don't care.
Probably keep rallying.
Okay.
I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
What else has been going on?
Oh, it's summer.
You're doing a bathroom remodel.
I'm doing a bathroom remodel. Everything's gutted. Tub was supposed to show up today. So we'll see if that's waiting for me when I get home. But yeah, I guess my biggest takeaway on bathroom remodels is, if your wife asks you to do a bathroom remodel, just say yes. That way you can go hunting in the fall.
It's a give and take.
Right? Isn't that guaranteed? If you do a bathroom remodel, you get to go hunting.
I don't know. I haven't had to do a bathroom remodel. I'm going hunting.
Yeah, so bathroom remodel. Some camping. We're supposed to go watch Caleb run the crazy 100 this weekend.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. 100 miles.
Got to be a little
right? 100 miles?
100
or is it
miles.
100K?
100 miles.
That's so many miles.
Yeah. He's a savage, though, so sure he'll do it.
Is he going to win?
I don't think so.
Come on.
I mean, he may be. Caleb's
Let's go,
pretty
Caleb.
good. He's an athlete.
You went on a run with him the other day.
I know.
Was he hauling butt or was he nice and ran at your
No,
place?
he's tapering, so we did, I think, 8.5-minute miles. So weird.
Moving, but not.
We're moving, but we weren't like setting records.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of the day, so it was hot. So that's going on. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of preparation before fall hits.
Yep.
Making sure the family's dialed in, making sure all the loose ends are tightened up, so there's no real emergencies, hopefully. And yeah, practicing some with my rifle, shooting my bow just for fun mostly. And yeah, praying we get a little bit cooler weather.
It's going to be hot, but hopefully it's not nuclear in September.
Yeah. So we're filming 10 days?
Yeah.
10 days in September.
10 days and then Travis goes home.
For a bow hunt.
If we haven't killed a bull, Jared and I will keep
guys
after it. Hopefully one person has killed a bull.
Oh,
we had some rough bear hunts, so the pendulum always swings the other direction. So I'm hoping that we have a good elk hunt. But
crush it.
Filming archery elk hunts is not easy, and I think there's just not a lot of good ones out there. It seems like it's so challenging for people to prioritize trying to film the kill shot, which is not necessarily a requirement for a good film. But I feel like when people watch hunting, or if you are a hunter, you know that like the stock and the shot is definitely one of the most exciting things that you work towards to try to get. And I think being able to show people that and share that with people is like a huge, huge plus in just people's enjoyment of the film and the viewership and all the things. One thing that I will really think people should do less of if they really are trying to make good films and get people to actually watch them, quit showing us the kill shot or right up until you see the kill shot in the first 30 seconds of your video. You just showed me what I was supposed to be waiting to watch, and now I just want to skip ahead and just watch that because you basically told me there's not much story other than that. This is why you should watch it. So why would I watch any of the filler leading up to it?
Well,
At least that's how I view it.
For them, it's like the only hook they have,
Yeah.
in the beginning. So they want to hook you for the film. I mean, I get why they do it.
And it's not that you can't ever do that. You definitely can. It seems like it's just become absolutely commonplace because I think there's a lot of imitation in hunting films. I wouldn't even really call most of them films. They're just videos. But there's always a story there, whether it's a crazy, huge, life-altering story or whether it's just you going hunting with your buddies. I think storytelling is at a very low. The bar's low in the world of hunting videos and films for what people are trying to achieve or do.
Yeah. Well, kind of on that topic, did you see that Donnie Vincent's releasing a bunch of his old footage that never came out?
Nope.
He's releasing a bunch of his films that never made it an appearance at the end of this month, I think.
Nice.
So that should be cool.
Yeah. Donnie Vincent and the boys have always done a good job.
Yeah. Some of the best.
I'm still hoping that there's a film of the caliber of The Rivers Divide. That one was
that one's top.
Exceptional. I feel like some of the other ones that I've watched from him have not really, I think, met that same standard of what that film did and was, but hopefully some of these other ones will
be good.
Raise that bar.
Yeah.
I'd say that the biggest thing I think that makes a difference in making really films and telling any kinds of stories is just the pre-production work.
Oh, yeah.
And having a plan for what you want it to look like, feel like, the music, how does the film start, what are some ways to connect scenes, what are the storylines, and just at least getting the juices flowing in your brain so that when you go out there and you film and you work on it, you just have a little better awareness of what you're filming and how it's going to get pieced together, how it's going to get cut. I don't think I've made a film in a while now that didn't have some level of pre-production. Even just listening to music tracks and starting to get a feel for maybe what type of music you'd want, what the story is it going to be fast, is it going to be slow, is it going to have a lot of natural audio, how does the hunt set up, what's the landscape, what lenses do you think would work best to like showcase it?
Having shot lists, even if it's not like shot lists are just like, I want to get this shot.
Yeah,
this shot would be cool, this shot would be unique, because that's like a huge thing you see with a lot of films is someone standing with the same lens, the same distance from the hunter the entire time.
Yeah.
And then, maybe they kill it and then they shoot a couple different shots at that point. But just having a more unique perspective on how am I going to capture this. Like you even just rarely even see like a person way off in the distance hiking, like a unique perspective of like, oh, that person's across the basin, or that person's up on the ridge, or when people are glassing, the videographer or photographer walks way down the ridge with a telephoto lens or something. Just getting more unique perspectives to be able to capture and actually show a perspective on where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of filmers also don't film when it's the most challenging parts of the hunt. Navigating nasty terrain, which sure, like it's definitely tough to run a camera when you're going through a scree field, but like those are kind of like the moments that can set apart the visual and the story from, what else is available out there, and gives people that experience and that perspective into the experience. That's just, it gives you a deeper, richer sense of what occurred on the hunt. I've spent a lot of time with younger, less experienced camera operators, and it seems like they kind of baby their gear, or they don't have their camera out when they should, and when it's challenging or when the terrain's tough. And I think they're missing out big time on what their potential for what they could have captured was, or even having the ability to direct and communicate with your hunters. When you're running camera, when you're filming a hunt, you're hunting yourself. You're hunting for the shots. You're trying to be one step ahead of where are we going? What does it look like? How is the lighting hitting us? Where is my shadow if I'm close to the subject or I have a wide angle lens, and all these things. I think they're just kind of tagging along, pulling the camera up, turning it on, and hitting record. And, there's a place and a time for that, and there's different preferences on what people want to watch and what they enjoy. But, I think for me, and probably for Travis too, like, we like to film things that actually allow us to kind of maximize the equipment that we have, and, utilizing different lenses for different perspectives and trying to set up shots, or being ahead of people, moving the camera around, being a little more dynamic. Not always editing the films in a linear fashion, cutting in either flashbacks or parts of the story, trying to just do something that's a little bit more than dropping clips in a timeline, cutting it up, tightening it up, adding some music, and calling it a day. Which is tough, whenever you put a creative spin on something, you're kind of putting yourself out there. It's art. And you hope people like it, but you gotta be willing to have your stuff kind of, I won't cuss so Jared doesn't have to bleep it out, but kind of eat crap. Like, if you're not willing to put something out there that could just fall on its face, then you're not really taking any risks, I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And even taking risk when you're out shooting. Like, every video isn't going to crush it. Everything's not going to be a success. But it really stifles your creative thinking and process if you're not out there like constantly taking risks. Mm-hmm. Even on shots where it's just like, if this might not work, it might be totally horrible, but you're going to like risk taking this shot with the camera to get a unique perspective or a unique take on what you're shooting.
Yeah. And then for all the guys that are into filming and want to film, I think that if you're not editing, and you don't have to become a full-blown video editor, but if you're not editing your own work, you're just like really stifling your progression and your abilities to get the shots that would work best to tell the story or just showcase whatever the experience is that you're having when you're in the field. Because if you don't go back and look through all your footage and try to cut it together, you don't really know what you missed or what shots you should have got or how they pieced together and why you shot them. You're kind of just shooting like photos that have motion and you're hoping they go together. And there's obviously great editors that can take footage from anyone and make a pretty good piece. But I think if you have a team of guys who have that knowledge base, it's just the end product is always better.
Yeah. Reviewing your footage and editing it 100% is like, it just will take you leaps and bounds in like your own process of shooting.
And even just with the basics of like, oh, like, man, my exposure was a little bit off on these shots, or like, dang it, like my audio levels were not what I thought they were because I wasn't like monitoring my audio while I was in the field, or my focus was off, or like, oh man, if I would have moved the camera here and done this, like that shot would have been so much better. And, you know, if you just shoot the footage, slap it on a hard drive, ship it off, yeah, you know, you probably got paid for the job and made your money or whatever, but it didn't really do you a lot of service in the long term as far as getting better. And I feel like a lot of people who hire that out aren't really capable or maybe willing to give the feedback that they should to those kinds of guys. And I know, like, I've hired guys to shoot stuff who, after they delivered it, they never followed up or like, hey, like, how'd that footage look? Like, did you have any like goods, bads, critiques? What'd you think? Like, they weren't. And I think maybe that's just motivation of like, they didn't care that much or they weren't really trying to excel in that. But I'd say like following up, if you're not going to look through your own footage and trying to get that feedback is huge.
Huge, yeah. Well, even things like I notice things almost after every single project where it's like, oh, like I need to be a little bit more aware on like when I am shooting handheld, having very smooth motions, making sure like it's not as shaky, really like focusing on capturing smooth hand motions, learning how to have steady hands.
Yeah.
Or like, man, I should have like actually used a tripod on that shot or for that section. Like that shot would have been sick had it been stabilized on a tripod. And even shooting slow motion, people try to shoot slow motion to take out shake, but it's like, it's even better if you can shoot it on a tripod, especially if it's detailed or it's throwing your focus off because you're shaking and your autofocus is jumping past the subject or you didn't lock on your autofocus. Exposure, white balance. It's pretty easy to have those things kind of slip. And you never would know unless you go back and look at the details closely when editing or viewing your footage. And yeah, the audio thing, like even when we had that, I think we were just talking about that. I'm not always monitoring audio. I monitor audio fairly often just to make sure everything's working good. But we had wireless mics, and at a certain distance, if we had Jared and Zach walking the trail, when Zach came in front of Jared's receiver on his wireless mic, it actually blocked out the signal. And I had no idea because you can't tell from the levels because it was just for a split second, in and out. So stuff like that, for me personally, I need to be monitoring the audio pretty often, unless I'm just shooting that Sony boom mic. I think it's pretty consistent.
And there's a lot that goes into filming. Like photography's, I wouldn't say easy, but it's pretty dang easy. When it comes to filming, there's just so many variables, and that's, part of why we went out and scouted too, is just to be using the equipment and going back and reviewing it and figuring out what worked and what didn't, and like using the new lens, shooting shots on, different cameras. We have a couple different Sony camera bodies, and there's little differences in how they operate and how the setup on them are. And even a little bit of the look and the color, and trying to make sure that all that stuff is working and dialed before the hunt starts, so that, Travis, he's going to be filming us. So Travis's like mental capacity and energy is focused on what he's filming and how he's filming it, and not fiddling with settings and wondering why his camera's not working. We definitely had some stuff that just, even on this shoot, I updated some firmware on the cameras.
Mhm.
Travis was like, oh, there's an owl. Like, let's shoot it with the new, long lens and see how this thing works. He goes to shoot a photo, and the dial's been switched, which, is just fine for what we're doing. But it was just like, hadn't went through the camera and really used it yet. It was set on like a timer for a photo instead of just an actual shutter click when you press the shutter. And I was like, what is this thing doing?
It's beeping at me. It's not taking the photo.
So
yeah,
it's just like scouting for hunting. You want to
yeah.
put a little legwork in, use your gear, get acquainted, so that when it's game time, you're ready to rock and roll. It's just like football teams practice and prepare. If you're going to go shoot a rifle match, I want to practice and shoot my ammo and make sure my dope's good and know how to use my equipment, or, whatever it is. Yeah, putting in those reps is huge.
Yep. For sure. What else do you got?
What else?
Yeah, and if you haven't updated the firmware on your camera, I would highly consider it.
Yeah.
Because even the latest update on the A7S3, I think it's a upgrade for how some of those video functions work.
Yeah.
How you can view the footage, especially S-Log.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things to also learn, because it wipes out some of your other functions that you had stored in your camera. So you just got to work out those kinks. And if you're on a shoot, you might miss something or you might mess something up. So this was definitely a good, making sure our gear's dialed, making sure we're carrying extra batteries in your pockets, so you don't miss anything. Making sure you always are keeping an eye on how much time you have left on your SD cards, memory cards. And yeah, it's just amazing how many people, like reenact their kill shots.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, you have 3 arrows missing out of your quiver. Like, what happened? Did you just miss the whole thing, or was it it's always interesting to think like, what was the story behind that? Just personally, it kind of bugs me when people do the reenactment, especially on a bow kill, where it's like your quiver's empty. You're drawing on this deer.
Yeah. If you think about like mainstream films, movies, the whole goal when they're filming it is to bring a viewer into like an experience and not give them any distractions to remove them from it, right? And to just hold their attention in the spot so that they get like the full experience of whatever it is they're trying to convey to the viewer. And so whether people want to reenact their stuff or not, I think for 99% of probably what we shot, we try not to, and try to do a good job being ready and film it as it goes down. But if you're going to reenact stuff, take some time and be thoughtful and try to film it so it doesn't feel like it. Don't be deceptive. Don't alter the course of how it went down and stuff, but film it in a way that doesn't remove the viewer from like, oh, they're reenacting it now. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Even like sometimes, I'm sure you've seen it, people will all of a sudden be like out in front of the guy stalking.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you ever be out in front of whoever is stalking in on the animal? Or someone's shooting from a vantage and they're off at like 45 or 30 degrees, 20 degrees ahead of the barrel.
Yeah.
We're like, whoa. I mean, good perspective, but now I'm completely distracted because I'm like, why are you out in front of the barrel?
Yeah.
Like I was shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that at matches because you apparently got balls of steel.
Yeah, you can't really get out in front of people at matches because you're trying to not distract the RO and be safe and like make sure that everybody's comfortable with your position when you're filming. Obviously, if we're at the range doing stuff where it's a controlled environment and, you know, we're the only ones there, we can move the camera into some more dynamic positions or put it on a tripod and leave it in front of the shooter. But fishing would be one, though, that like I'm okay with getting some B-roll to maybe build up to set the, I guess, stage for catching a fish. You know, if you're on foot, you're trying to film eats all day and you film and eat and you didn't quite get the right shots that led into it, maybe you go back and you shoot, you know, sneaking down the bank. Maybe you get a unique angle of the guy casting that cuts in and matches with the actual cast that caught the fish to just give a little richer like experience to kind of what that person just did. I feel like hunting, it's just, there's only the one time you pull the trigger. So that just feels, I don't know, it feels different. What else? Yep, just gonna be shooting bows a bunch, getting things dialed in. Hunting season will be here. We'll be filming some antelope hunting, filming the archery elk hunt. That'll be kind of one of our big projects. We're gonna be working with Matthews on that thing, so we'll have more details on that, but that should be pretty sweet. And probably try to get out and film Travis trying to crack a bull with his rifle. Be filming some mountain buck hunting. Do a couple of those films, and that'll kind of be, I think, most of it for fall hunting plans.
Until coyote hunting.
Until coyote hunting, which is all season. Hopefully, I'd like to do some wolf hunting. So if there's anyone out there listening that just really has got a bead on finding and shooting wolves, hit us up, because those things are stinking tough. Unless you got some local knowledge or know someone that has them on their property or something like that, if you're not putting in a lot of days, it seems like those things are pretty darn tough to put a, you know, set number of days together and even get an opportunity at one. So at some point we'll invest a bunch of time into that.
Yeah.
Something I've wanted to do for a long time. It's just feels tough when you've spent so many days hunting all fall to then have another big time investment on, you know, filming when it's freezing cold and there's snow, and it's just, it seems to get put onto the next year's program. And
yeah, dude, wolf hunts are intentionally hunting wolves.
Yeah,
you come across them, and that's usually when you kill them. Out elk hunting, bear hunting, whatever. But
what else? Crypto's up.
Crypto's up. Release the Epstein files.
Yeah, I heard that, you know, there's opinions that there really never was a list. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows.
No way.
I think that there has to be, but we'll see. People are like, oh, Trump's not releasing them because Trump's on the list. You'd be like, you do think if Trump was on the list, that they wouldn't have used that to try to keep him out of office? Like, what?
Yeah. Well, the only thing that I can think of why they would, if he was on the list and they didn't release it, would be because so many of them are on the list as well. They would have to essentially turn themselves over as well. That's my only real thing that I can think of.
What else?
Montana sucks.
Montana's terrible.
Yeah.
I hear Colorado's pretty cool.
Dude, Colorado is on the up and up. Great place. Definitely move to Colorado.
Man, I don't know. We've had a couple long days. Scouting is a lot of energy invested from sun up to sundown, and we've been filming, and I'm feeling like, the brain power the battery's a little low. If you guys have stuff you want us to cover and touch in the podcasts, shoot us a message. Let us know.
Yep.
What do you want us to talk about? I've been spending some time being a general contractor, rebuilding what's going to be my office over at the fiance's house. So I've been scraping off horrendous old texture, fixing bad construction, and trying to hopefully make a rad spot to store all my gear and work out of when we get married.
Yeah, that'll be a big change.
Yep. I don't know. I think that's kind of all I got.
Yep. You're gonna need. Are you gonna make it with not a gas?
Yeah, we're gonna make it.
Need an oil change too.
Yep. Need to get an oil change. Yeah, get your rig squared away before hunting season. Change the oil. Run through them. Maybe have a second rig available if one goes down. Truck problems during hunting season is never fun.
I gotta figure out my 4-wheel drive.
Also, if you're hunting areas where the roads turn to gumbo when it rains, be respectful of the people that actually live out there, and don't be that guy that tears up people's roads because you had to try to get to your hunting spot when it rained. We knocked on some doors and talked to some landowners, and it seems like there's just some people out there that they leave a really bad taste in landowners' mouths on how they handle access either to public lands and how they handle private landowners. And if they get permission, they say they're going to do one thing and they do another thing. And it's a bummer. It makes it tough to get out on to pieces of property that, would historically be available to people who want to knock on doors and talk to people and get to know people. And it's a bummer to hear that kind of stuff. So be respectful when you're out there during hunting season. If you see other hunters, and you're not on a stalk or something, go say hi, be friendly, smile at people. I feel like there's a lot of people that seem to have bad attitude. Also, when you walk up to people, have a smile on your face. It really goes a long ways when you show up, looking happy and friendly instead of scowling or not saying anything. So,
yeah. And there's a lot of places where, it's always a bummer when there's someone there, but a lot of times there's space for both of you. And even if you go talk to the other guy, a lot of time you can get some info on like where they're going. Sometimes they don't tell you the truth, but a lot of times they're friendly people and they're stoked that you're going to be being friendly back and willing to chat it out and be like, even just like how many days are you going to be in here? Some people it's like just for the day. It's like, oh, sweet. And you get some info because there's a lot of times, you go to a trail, there's all these people, you leave, next day there's no one there.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can just get that little bit of intel even from those people and be like, oh, today might not be great, but I'm gonna have it all to myself after tomorrow.
Sometimes a lot of trucks at a trailhead doesn't mean anything other than there's obviously something there worth hunting. One of the bulls I killed when Travis and I lived in Missoula was, they were we were a little late, first of all. I think there were like 10 trucks there that day.
Yeah, there's a lot of trucks.
And anywhere else that we were going to want to hunt was a pretty decent drive, which means we were going to burn the entire morning going somewhere else. And so we just stuck to our plan. It didn't seem like anyone was really hiking to where we wanted to be. Obviously, we didn't see anyone. Went in there, found a few nice bulls, shot one, and had an awesome day. So I think there's definitely times where there are smaller spots where if you see some trucks there, it's probably the right thing to go somewhere else. But there's also areas where there's giant tracts of land. It's public land. Everyone has a right to it. And if you want to hunt it, go in there and hunt it. And if you're a guy that's already in there, you can't really get mad at other people for wanting to exercise their right of coming out to hunt on public land. Just be better and out hunt the next guy. There's spots that we go to where me and some other guys I know have killed a handful of bulls that have tons of trucks day in and day out there. And most people just aren't willing to hike to the spots that you need to be, or be in there early so you can be in the right spots to glass, and they don't have success. And so, yeah, I think there's a little discretion when you get to trailheads and there's other people there, but
yeah, even places with horses.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people with horses are riding the trails.
It's also sometimes when you get to trailheads and no one else is there, you're like, man, is this even a good spot to go?
And sometimes
Jared and I, last year when we shot our bucks, we were the only ones there, and we were like, what the heck? And then, obviously there's not animals everywhere. We were able to find a good pocket. I'd hunted it previously and seen some deer in there, and so kind of knew where to look and had an awesome hunt. And you're like, man, I hope that it stays like that, where there's no trailhead. And there's probably a good reason that there's not, because there's a lot of places there where it doesn't matter how hard you glass or hunt, there's just not animals there. But what else?
Okay. Montana people, buy a wolf tag.
Yes.
Buy a mountain lion tag. If you care about where you hunt and if you think that the population is declining, don't ever have an excuse for why you can't shoot a wolf or a mountain lion. If you're against that, whatever, but you should be for managing predators in your area if you like hunting deer and elk. Have a bear tag if you didn't fill it in the spring. There's a lot of units that are open still for bears in the fall in Montana. And yeah, it'd be nice to have a few less wolves and even mountain lions in certain districts on the landscape.
Yeah. I think that ties into, again, hunting's a privilege. I know that reading the regs is not that much fun, but everyone really should.
Yeah.
If not every year, every other year, at the bare minimum, try to read through the regulations, make sure you know what's going on. For predators, there are sometimes quotas. You need to make sure that, I know with mountain lions, paying attention to the quotas is important. Same with bears in certain areas. Wolves, typically, I don't think anything's closed during general season as far as I can remember. I know the Yellowstone
around the park
unit, that one will shut down and probably potentially does during rifle season, maybe.
Yeah.
But, yep, you got to do a little legwork to be a hunter.
Know the regs, especially like even a bunch of deer changes. some units used to be able to hunt mule deer. You can't hunt anymore unless you drew the permit. Make sure you know whether it's a brow tine only for elk or not. Can you shoot spikes? Can you not? Is it either sex? Yeah, even there's like date changes on certain units.
Yep.
That have changed.
Boundaries change, hunting district numbers change. Should try to kind of know that stuff and try to stay on top of it, because a lot of times when they do make changes, they will solicit hunter input. And also, if you are a mule deer hunter, you don't need the meat probably. So don't just shoot a buck to shoot a buck. We need to be, I don't know. Mule deer in Montana is just, there's still some great ones out there. There's still good hunting to be had. But my goodness, the amount of exceptional mule deer habitat that we drive through, hunt through, look through, and the overall quality of mature bucks is just garbage.
Yeah.
I'd say of all the Western states, I would not be picking Montana as my prized state for mule deer. And it's because we hunt them way too long and through the rut. And FWP just promotes opportunity and non-residents coming and blasting stuff, which that's their MO, but it'd be nice if more people kind of had a little bit of discretion on if they need to shoot that buck or not.
I haven't killed a deer in, it's probably 7 years now.
Yeah.
And there's been a few that like I would have shot if I had the opportunity, but the opportunity was a short little window and it didn't happen.
So that's kind of it. I'd say another good thing that I like to do is figure out what teeth you can take from the lower jaw of some of these animals that you kill. You can send them in probably to some different places. Matson Laboratories, I think they're in Belgrade or Three Forks or Manhattan or something in Montana.
Yeah, I think it's
outside
Manhattan.
Bozeman. You can send some teeth in, pay them a pretty reasonable fee. Forget what it is off the top of my head. I want to say, I won't even say because I don't remember. It's pretty cool information to know just what the age class of certain animals are, especially if you hunt different areas. And again, at least I try to make good judgment calls on what I shoot. Obviously, if I need meat, I'm not going to be as picky, but if I've killed some stuff or I have plenty of meat, sometimes I choose to not shoot things unless I feel like it's an old, mature animal that isn't going to make a big difference if it gets removed from the population. I think it's okay as a hunter sometimes to just shoot stuff because you want to, but it's also good to have discretion and not always have the, if it's brown, it's down. If I have a tag in my pocket, I need to kill something. So.
Yeah, and that, I think it's, you pay a fee. I don't remember what it is either, but you can like submit 5 or.
I think it's like up to 5
sets of
teeth
for
is
that
like
price.
A set price. Maybe it's like $70, $60, $70 or something, if I'm remembering correctly. And then it's like an extra nominal fee for every tooth past that. Like a lot of times me and other people have just lumped together some teeth. You know, obviously once you get back, try not to lose them and put them in, you know, remove all the meat off of them, dry them out, put them in an envelope, label it, and then you can kind of put together a little outline for Matson Labs, send them in, and in a few months usually you get the information back. And it's definitely taught me some stuff about some areas and what I thought the age was and what it actually ended up being. And just trying to be a better, more well-rounded hunter. I think it's a good little thing to potentially add into how you hunt every season.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like, I think a lot of people, it's cool to like shoot an animal grab the teeth and then even just have your buddies guess, you know, like how old do you think that deer was? Because even like the deer you shot last year,
Yeah.
you know, have a guess of how old do you think that deer is? Because you hear a lot of people saying, I don't know, throwing crazy numbers out like that was a mature buck. It's like, well, that was a 3-year-old.
That was a 3-year-old with great genetics.
Yeah. It just gives you a better idea of like what are the characteristics that make an actual mature animal. And sometimes it's really hard to tell. And then it gives you a better idea of like, are the genetics actually good here? Because you will have big deer that are big elk and they're a lot younger than you actually think they are.
Yeah.
And then just even understanding like the regression of antler size based on age. Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening.
Most people probably won't get to the point that they're like worried about is this bull regressing or not, because they're usually big enough for most people to shoot. But it's interesting. We've definitely killed some old animals and gotten to, you know, it can be tough sometimes to be like, is he in his prime or is he past his prime? So, and Jared and I are still working on trying to get some possible hunting products developed. As much as you want it to happen like overnight, it does take quite a bit of time, which is why a lot of people are like, it's taken us 2 years or 3 years to develop this, which, final little tidbit to say that we're still pursuing some of that. So hopefully there'll be more to talk about and share with you guys down the line.
Have you mentioned that?
So that's it.
Sweet. All right.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yep. Over and out.